What impact is this generation expected to have on the workforce?
Okay, there's some obvious ones and non-obvious ones. The obvious ones we all know. We've forced all brands and companies. We have flexible work hours and days, which is important for Gen Z because a lot of us live in a flat with like no porter or doorman. So being able to be at home when we need to be at home to let someone in or get the plumbing sorted, it's a kind of a huge plus side. So having those flexible work hours, very important. We've seen that happen already. Also, we've seen this idea of flexible workspaces within the office. Having your own desk is kind of not really a thing anymore. A lot of offices I've been to, take your laptop, you plug into different monitors around the room, you have meetings in different rooms, you work on different sofas and beanbags and whatnot. So we know that, we know the obvious ones, but actually there's probably 12 less obvious ones that both have started and are going to need to start happening to retain Gen Z employees. The first one is this desire to be heard is a big thing. We want to be given the opportunity to speak up and provide a variety of times and locations to do so. Two, we want a higher frequency of communication by managers to all of our employees. So we much prefer having kind of short bursts of kind of info and chatting with our managers about us rather than a quarterly review. The third one is this higher quality of content being communicated to your employees. So actually talking from a manager's perspective, talking to your employees about business chats and let that include strategy, product innovation, plans, not just giving them the bare minimum like the admin updates, but really involving them in the best way possible. The fourth one is a broader exposure within the company. So it's not just they want to know their team, but they actually want to have a more holistic understanding of the whole company and how they fit in. The fifth one is less corporate structure and rigidness around advancement. Gen Z like a meritocracy as long as it doesn't involve favoritism or nepotism. We want less corporate structure and rigidness around advancement. What Gen Z want to see is instead of, okay, you're going to have 2 years in this role, 3 years in this role, 10 in this role, and then maybe you can get a promotion to a kind of a partner or kind of joining the firm in a bigger manner. Actually, what we want to see is, you know what, you can go from here, and then from here, if you want to go to here, you can spend 6 months here, and then you advance bouncing around on your way up the company as opposed to just following the path that's been laid out for you. The sixth one is less formality around management hierarchy. A lot of companies where people I'm working with won't ask their managers something because they're scared to unless it's in a well thought out PowerPoint. That seems absurd to young people. Being able to speak to people at all levels without being told that you went over someone else's head or you're not meant to speak to that person directly or this was too informal, scrap that. It's unhelpful and Gen Z really doesn't like it. The seventh is more frequent performance feedback and changing the way that looks. Not just like an annual review, but informal monthly chats, letting you know how you're doing. And yes, there's still space for a full 360-degree peer, manager, and team review, but I think that needs to work alongside a much more constant formal review that happens more often as opposed to keeping it just annual. The eighth is being able to influence corporate programs and charities that your company works with. We want to provide an extension to the employee hub where we want to influence corporate programs and charities. So I think brands need to provide an extension to their employee hub where people can talk about their own charities and their own social change and things that are important to them. And people can join or sponsor however they see fit. The ninth is going to be destigmatizing historically complex topics, things like mental health in the workplace, destigmatize that, but that's kind of a given. The 10th is going to be diversity and inclusivity, the things that we find important to us, you want to see reflected within the environment of our company. The 11th is making sure your company is adopting technology at the rate that young people are outside of the work. Kind of when we start using it tech at home, it should have already been incorporated into the workplace. We don't want to work for someone who's lagging 5, 10, 15 years behind on a tech basis. And then finally, you want your company's purpose to align with your own personal purpose. So having that kind of moral compass pointing the same direction as ours is quite important from an employee perspective.